Patrick Christie's tonight. Now, shortly, I'll give you a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But first, with another Conservative leadership contest just around the corner, I'm joined live in the studio by Tory MP Andrew Rosindell. Yes, the race to replace Rishi Sunak will take shape in the next few weeks. Several high-profile Conservatives are refusing to rule themselves out of that race.
I'm having lots of conversations with colleagues. I'm very flattered and very encouraged by what people are saying to me, but this is a really difficult time for our party.
We need to ask ourselves some very hard questions about delivery, about integrity, and also about our values. But underlying all of this, of course, we have to talk as a unified party.
I honestly don't think that 3 days on from a general election in which we've just lost so many of our friends and colleagues, that it is right to have self-indulgent conversations like this. The reason I came on your programme, Laura, is because I care about the Conservative Party.
Former Home Secretary Priti Patel is also believed to be a contender, but she's not said much beyond offering her support to England as they battle through the Euros. A weekend poll of Times newspaper readers showed Tom Tugendhat as their preferred candidate, followed by Kemi Badenoch and James Cleverly. And with the 1922 committee due to elect their new chairman for the backbench MPs tomorrow, the timetable for the leadership contest should be in place very soon. So we should know soon, shouldn't we? Well, Andrew Rosindell joins me now. Will you be the next leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, someone's got to do it, and we need someone that's got courage, integrity, principle, someone that's not afraid to say it as it is, and that's where we've gone wrong. We've had too many leaders and too many cabinet ministers who have not really got to where the British people want us to be, and that's why we've lost. So we need someone with a bit of gumption.
Is that you? You could do it? You could put yourself in the ring?
Look, any one of us could do the job, but I want someone of character and principle who's going to stand up and put this country first. That's what the British people want. The reason they voted us out of office is that they didn't think we were looking after the best interests of our country, and the government appeared incompetent, so they voted reform, and many of my colleagues unfortunately lost their seats. We've got to get this sorted out for the next election. Otherwise, we're going to have years and years of a Labour government, and that's something I really don't want to see.
Well, I will take note of the fact that you've not ruled yourself out. But why would you? You shouldn't rule yourself out at this stage. But of the people that we've rattled through a bit there, you've got Priti, you've got Suella, you've got Robert Jenrick, as you could maybe say the right. I'll probably put Kemi Badenoch in that as well. You know, any one of those that you'd be more favourable towards?
Well, look, I want someone that is going to bring the right of centre back together again. It's simple mathematics, Patrick. We can't win an election if our vote is cut in half. Yep. So if you have two right of centre parties, one Conservative, one Reform, and let's face it, we agree on most things. There are some issues where we may disagree, but generally speaking, both are right of centre parties. If that happens, who's going to win? I'll tell you who's going to win. Labour every single time. So the mathematics of this are simple. In our electoral system, which is first past the post, you need the right of centre parties to coalesce. How that's going to happen, how we're going to achieve it, with all the characters and personalities involved, I do not know. What I do know is that unless we do that, the likelihood is that you're going to have a second and a third and even a fourth term of a Labour government.
Some of the people that are in the running at the moment, you've got Tom Tugendhat, for example, Victoria Atkins. I'm not sure they meet your description, do they, there?
Look, we lost votes not because we were too right-wing, frankly. We lost votes because we seemed to be indistinguishable from the Labour Party, the Liberals. We were mush in the middle. And most people that vote Reform because we weren't Conservative enough. We didn't have this problem when Mrs Thatcher was Prime Minister and leader, because everyone knew where they stood with her. They didn't always agree with her necessarily, but they knew she was someone of courage who stood up and said what she believed in, and she did what she said. Now, in recent times, that's not happened, and I think people are very disillusioned with us. So, if we want to get a chance of winning a future election, we have to bring everyone back together again, but we must do so in the interests of the country. So we have to have the right principles. If we're too wishy-washy, if we muddle our words, if we aren't clear about what we stand for, why should people vote for us?
Yeah, indeed. The interesting thing of all of this is there seems to be some ongoing debate, doesn't there, about whether or not the Conservative Party needs to occupy the centre ground again, or whether or not it needs to be, essentially, right-wing. And you are saying that this Conservative rebuild needs to be a right-wing rebuild.
So, in a democracy, you give people a choice of voting for political parties. If all the political parties are one mush and you can't really distinguish between them, that's not really democracy. That's actually fooling people into voting for one party when, in fact, they're getting something different. I think we need in this country a proper right-of-centre party, a Conservative party that upholds traditional values of this country.
Just on that, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's quite a good point, because you mentioned that a few times about having one coherent right-wing party. Does that, do you think, in practical terms, not tomorrow or the week after, but maybe a year or two down the line, look a bit like an amalgamation with Reform, do you think?
Well, inevitably, because Reform is essentially a breakaway from the Conservative Party. The vast majority of people in Reform are the kind of people that I could sit with and agree on about 90% of things, and most of them are ex-Conservative members. So this is a family feud. That's how I see it. It's a family feud. We need to bring the family back together again, because the real enemy of this country, the real enemy, is socialism. And my fear, having been in the Conservative Party for over 40 years and having joined because of Margaret Thatcher and believing in what she stood for, I see the Conservative Party as having lost its way completely, so we need to get back on track.
What do you do about involving the members in the decision for the next Tory party leader, though?
Well, the members have to have a say. It's completely wrong that it's a closed shop within the parliamentary party. The problem is, Patrick, and I'm probably different than most of my colleagues, because I'm very much in tune with the members and our voters. A lot of them are not. A lot of them see things very differently. So that the political makeup of the parliamentary party has often been much more to the centre, when our voters and our members are much more to the right of centre. So there's a disconnect. So that has to be sorted out. The parliamentary party cannot wag the dog. You know, we are the MPs, but at the end of the day, the tail cannot wag the dog. And if the dog is going in a certain direction and that's what's needed, we need to reflect that.
If you end up with somebody that has not been voted for by the members, so some kind of jiggery-pokery takes place there, and that person happens to be someone who you've described as being a bit useless here, technically, so someone who's a bit centre, who does not resonate with the members, would you consider moving to Reform?
No, I'm not going to join any other party. I've only ever been in the Conservative Party. I believe the Conservative Party is a great national institution, but sometimes it loses its way. It's not the first time it's happened, and we need a strong leader to put us back on track again. And Margaret Thatcher did that. Boris did that. He won an 80-seat majority. Now, I think things went rather pear-shaped when the pandemic came along, and we could have done a whole lot more with that 80-seat majority. But what they did to him was an outrage. You know, one of our most successful prime ministers was stabbed in the back, pushed out of office. They did the same to Margaret Thatcher. Liz tried her best to get things back on track, but we know that went wrong as well, so they pushed her out. People are bored of it. They think we're incompetent. They think we're all fighting amongst ourselves. And what I want to do at the moment is to listen to all the leadership contenders and see who actually has a clear vision for our country.
And then potentially put yourself on that list.
I'm not going to rule anything out, and no one should. I'm going to say to you, Patrick, and I'm saying to all the leadership contenders, we need to get our party back on track. The other side of it is party organisation. It's too centralised. Local constituencies don't function like they should. It's all top down, and that's got to change. We've got to be a grassroots party again, and that's what I want to see.
Andrew, look, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And congratulations on keeping hold of your seats as well, it must be said. So, yeah, we'll watch this space when it comes to Andrew Rosindell. That is, of course, the Tory MP for Romford, Andrew Rosindell.